Hey there, my name is Lilith and I'm the creator behind fashion art label Ziggenthaler based in Switzerland, Europe, or you might know me better as the artist that paints the mini albums. Not gonna lie, it's been a hot minute since I've made a long form YouTube video just because I've been putting most of my time into painting this denim tote bag and editing them in the form of short content like TikToks and YouTube shorts. I'm filming this video for you today to go through the albums that I've painted on this denim tote bag, specifically 10 because I don't want to make this video too long, and I'm basically just going to be going through them chronologically, and I'm going to be taking you through my process, why I've chosen these albums. So yeah, if you'd like to know a little bit more of a backstory on why I've painted the albums I have, definitely keep watching. This is going to be the first video in a series where I'll be doing 10 albums per video. So just a little bit of context for this project. I started painting mini albums on this denim tote bag. It's a tote bag I've had for a couple of years now. My mum actually made it out of an old pair of jeans. So this piece is a completely recycled item. And yeah, I basically had this tote bag with me for a couple of years. I brought it over to Switzerland from Australia and I wanted to paint on it, but I never knew what. And then one day I had the idea of painting, you know, my favorite albums from my childhood and from my life, except in mini format so I could fit a whole heap on the bag. So yeah, I started painting these albums and I uploaded them as TikToks, I think, at first, and they were only getting like 50 to 100 views, like nothing big, but I just kept on consistently painting these albums, and now I'm very grateful for the fact that there are a lot of you that are invested in this project now, and so hopefully I will continue to paint these albums until the whole bag is covered. And yes, I'm going to be doing the other side. Okay, so let's get into the first album. So the first album I painted was Demon Days by the Gorillaz. This album altered my brain chemistry when I was 10 years old and I listened to it for the first time, and I always was a fan of the Gorillaz because they were just a cartoon band, and as a child I just sort of enjoyed watching their music videos more. I love the idea of a virtual band, and I've always loved the Gorillaz and the different projects and albums they've done. This album has a very special place in my heart, and that's why I started with Gorillaz. I was going to do Plastic Beach, but I thought that Demon Days would be the easiest album to start on. The next album I painted was Like Clockwork. Queens of the Stone Age is one of my favorite bands as well. Starting off strong with this bag, I really wanted to make sure that I had like some of the most significant albums to me. Not gonna lie, I'm a big fan of Rated R and Songs for the Deaf as well, but I really wanted to paint the Like Clockwork album artwork because at this point in the project I had no idea how this was going to turn out. Each of these squares are 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. I didn't know whether that was going to be too small, so I figured Like Clockwork would be a good place to start for Queens of the Stone Age albums. Then album number 3 is Currents by Tame Impala. If you followed a lot of my work, you'll see that I have used a lot of inspiration from Tame Impala and just psychedelic music in general. I was listening to this album on repeat when it first came out and I absolutely love it. I love a lot of the visuals and the music videos as well. I was really sort of kicking myself for a bit just because the details of all of the lines really sort of tested my patience, but in the end I got there. It's not perfect, but it's perfect for a 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter album. Next album is Igor by Tyler, the Creator. Apart from the fact that I absolutely love this album, I also felt like this album artwork would be really cool to paint on this tote bag, and also painting his portrait was the first time painting like a human face this small for me. And it actually turned out really well. I put a lot of time and effort into it because I really wanted to make it look good. I also really liked the bright pink color and figured it would go well with what I've been painting. And I'm just going to veer off slightly to tell you guys something. So when it actually comes to choosing albums, a lot of the time I make decisions based on the music. But another big factor is also picking albums with specific colors and placing them so that all the colors are dispersed on the bag evenly and there's no clashes. If you go through like the way that I've painted all these albums chronologically, you will see that I won't paint like 2 black based or 2 white based albums together. So as you can see here, a lot of the blues are separate, a lot of the yellows are separate, a lot of the white based albums, the black based albums are very separate. That's just sort of something something that influences my decisions of what to paint. The next mini album I painted was Drops of Jupiter by Train. So in regards to color, really good, bringing in something that's a little bit more warm, yellow toned, absolutely perfect. Drops of Jupiter, I'm sure like everyone else, love that song. I also loved this album a lot. I listened to it when I was younger. I think it was sort of my gateway album into listening to rock from just pop music into rock, which then sort of led me down other avenues like hard rock, heavy metal, and all that. A big part of my childhood, so it needed to be painted on here. Next album was Blink-182's album Blink-182. This album was very fun to paint, very colourful and awesome. I did accidentally make a couple of mistakes, as you can probably see in my shorts, but it turned out amazingly, and for me it just felt like the perfect fit for in the middle of the 4 albums I had already painted. And so the next album is Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not by the Arctic Monkeys. Arctic Monkeys, one of my favourite bands. I decided to go with this particular artwork because I wanted to paint again like a portrait of a face, just like the Igor album. And I'm not gonna lie, this album took me such a long time to paint. But in the end, it turned out great. I'm getting a lot of comments saying that it looks a lot like Adam Sandler, which I 100% agree with. About 70% of the time I was painting this album, I literally thought it was going to turn out as a disaster and I'd ruined the whole bag. But I did alright. Next album is Nevermind by Nirvana. Love Nirvana. Now I'm going to expose myself and say that Nevermind isn't actually my favourite Nirvana album. In Utero is. But at that point in time, I did not have the confidence to be able to paint that album cover, so I went for Nevermind instead. Not my best work, but I think people generally get the vibe, so as long as it's recognizable, I am happy. A lot of people also seem to be asking me about why I've left a specific detail out of this album, which is honestly just a personal choice for me, but a lot of you seem to be hyperfixating on this really, really small detail, which in itself would have just been a little grey blob I would have made with my toothpick. But yeah, I don't know, I think you should just ask yourself why you're hyperfixating on such a small detail in comparison to the rest of the album. Unpack it. Okay, so for the next album I did AM by the Arctic Monkeys, just because 1, I am such a big fan of Arctic Monkeys. 2, I needed a black-based album to sort of like balance the whole colours I had already, and AM just came to mind. This was actually the first time that I painted an album which was very low maintenance and very simple to make, which means that when I actually created the edit of the TikTok or the YouTube short, I had to really make it a little bit more cinematic, and this was actually one of the first videos where I started to add the different paint. Like the paint mixing and the colors in the water, just to add something different. Painting AM, the album would have been a very boring video if I just showed you as I've showed all the other albums, as they've been a little bit more complex. So this is where I actually sort of learnt how to create a little bit more in regards to like my editing and my transition. Next album I painted, and the last album I'm going to go through on this video, is Anti by Rihanna. Theoretically, I thought, wow, like great album. I love this album. I've listened to it so many times and I thought it would look great on the tote bag, but I was regretting it as soon as I started to paint the little girl, because the sort of visual effect on the album, it took a very long time, and to be honest, I feel like I could have done a much better job. But at the end of the day, just like I said with the Nevermind album, as long as it is recognizable, I am happy. So yeah, that's the first 10 albums that I've painted on this tote bag. I am currently right now up to album 27, so I'm going to have to do a couple of videos to get up to speed. Just before I close out, I'd just like to talk quickly about requests. I see in my videos one of the biggest form of comments I get are people requesting different albums they'd like me to paint, and I see a lot of other people conspiring saying, oh no, she's not taking requests, she's only doing the ones she loves, she's only doing the most popular albums, but I'm just here to set the record straight. I read every single request that I get on these videos, and these videos are posted on 3 different platforms, which means over the space of a day I could get hundreds of requests, and I try to read each and every one. The way that I've chosen these albums, as you already would have learned through this video, a lot of it has to do with color, a lot of it has to do with the composition of the bag, a lot of it has to do with whether it is possible to paint this album in such a small format, and a lot of them also just has to do with the popularity of requests. So at the end of the day, I do try to cater towards like the most popular albums that are requested. to give back to you guys who seem to be very invested in this project, and I'm very grateful for that. But I thought I would just let you know that you just need to keep in mind that I am one person, and of course I'm not going to be able to get around to everyone's at this point. Please don't take it personally if I don't do your own album, but once this project is done, I'm probably going to be starting other projects of which I can paint a lot of the other albums that are being requested in my comments. Thank you so much for commenting on my videos anyway. It really helps me with my engagement and just getting my work out there, and I'm very, very grateful to each and every one of you that has subscribed in the last couple of months. For now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one, and please keep an eye out for all of the other mini albums I'll be painting in the future. See ya!